History happened everywhere.
The verdict.
This is our after-show podcast where we look back at the most recent episode, episode 99, Law Enforcement in Moldova during 1455 to 1487. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out, or else there will be spoilers ahead.
What are you doing, Paul?
What?
That!
It's my cocktail spoon. I'm terribly sorry. It's a silver cocktail spoon, but it's a straw.
Right.
Hello, my name is Ryan Weir, and I'm here in the HHE studio with the Stephen the Great to my Gary the Impaler. It's Mr. Peter Goddard.
Gary the Impaler, I'd forgotten about him.
I'm sure a lot of impalas will be called that now.
Gary the Impala.
Well, like Vlad, if I was running a zoo, I'd certainly call my impala Vlad.
And we are joined as ever by the dynastic devourer of divin. It's the judge himself. It's Mr. Paul Dursley.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Judge, sir.
Now, Peter, this week I was assassinated by a rival while attending a wedding, and as such, I've forgotten everything that we talked about during the episode. So would you mind reminding me what happened in, let's say, 60 seconds?
I don't mind at all. I'm sorry about your assassination. I hope you're feeling better now.
Much better.
When would you like me to start?
I'd like you to do it now.
We travelled to Moldova to find out about law enforcement, where we learned that it's one of the less visited countries in Europe despite producing rather a lot of wine throughout its history, as documented by booze tourist Herodotus. We also met Stephen the Great, the leader who brought law and order to Moldova, including policing his own administration to keep everyone honest. And we looked at the different types of law that might apply to you in the area, whether it be Byzantine law, Vlach law, or if you're an unlucky gypsy, slave law. It was law enforcement, it was Moldova, it was 1455 to 87, it was fabulous.
That's to be seen.
Just trying to nudge you in the right direction there, Judge.
That was last week's episode done, summarised nicely. Nice one, son. Now we're over to a young Dursley who's gonna tell you what he thought of thee. He'll take you apart without any care. He's the lovely Paul Dursley. The lovely Paul Dursley. Ah, yes, I remember now, and what an episode it was! As much fun as reading Section 54A, Part 6, Title 29 of the Moldovan Penal Code. But what does it matter what I think? Because we're not here for that. We're here for the opinion of just one man, Judge Dursley. So, Paul, before we convene the court and receive your final ruling, why don't you kick us off with your first impressions of episode 99?
Well, I think, first of all, you should talk about the recent elections in Moldova, because unusually we have some factual news popping up.
It is interesting when a country that you're studying comes up in the news, and as you say, there was recent elections, and it was contested, as I believe, between a Russian-supporting and a European-leaning leader, and the European-leaning won by a wafer-thin margin, if I remember correctly.
You're right, it is fascinating when you're researching and suddenly something zeitgeisty pops up and you think, why are we not talking about the 21st century rather than the mid-15th?
Yes, but, law and order, a bit of history. It was good to know some background to what the nation is all about. Plus, there was the bit about Transnistria. It gave us some context between the kind of Russian-supporting side and the more Western-leaning.
I find that whole thing with Transnistria fascinating. The fact that they are not recognised by almost anyone except Russia.
I love the self-confidence it takes to go, we're a country, and the rest of the world goes, no, you're not. And you go, doesn't matter, we'll carry on as if we were. It's pretty bold.
Well, is it? What did the United States of America do? They declared themselves independent, and they weren't recognised for a long while until the French recognised them.
I mean, I guess that's the point, right? Is the longer you can hold out, eventually people will just come around to it and be like, all right, fine.
You're a country, if you say so. It's an awkwardly placed country, though. It's a sliver of land, really, between Ukraine and Moldova proper, if you will.
Well, yes, Transnistria is. I think it's in two parts as well. It's not even a contiguous piece of land.
But in terms of research, Pete, how did you find this episode?
I found this very challenging. As we mentioned in the episode, you rather cannily Bagsied Stephen the Great.
Very early.
Which I casually left you have, thinking, well, I'll pick one of the many other things available. And it transpired that there wasn't a great deal available outside of that, which is why I was a little bit, should we say, dancing around the topic and making some assumptions. I think we got there in the end, but it was extremely challenging. It's usually a sign that I've got a challenging topic if I'm really getting into the academic papers, and I was definitely knee-deep in academic papers.
Yeah, I wasn't. I had plenty to talk about. Sorry about that. Stephen the Great, though, what a character.
Yes, Stephen the Great was a great character, but although I preferred our sketch version of him.
I did find out, though, this week that Stephen the Great is still, to this day, looked on with a lot of reference, and a lot of people don't like people that ridicule the great man himself. So,
like in that sketch we did.
So apologies to any Moldovans that may have been offended by our joking around.
It was funny, though.
Oh, yes, I'm going to pick you up on something now. I think your population figure was totally incorrect. You said 500,000. I think it's 2.5 million.
I think it is 2.5 million. I may have read that wrong because I think it's 500,000 for the capital.
Yeah, I think you were talking about the capital, actually.
Ah, so there may have been some confusing communication style, but yes, I think you're absolutely right. It is 2.5 million in the country, but 500,000 in the capital. Kiss me now, as Ryan rather memorably put it.
They're losing a marketing opportunity on that. You know, Valentine's Day and Kiss Me Now.
Kiss me now, quick hats.
So actually that's an interesting point because Moldova does keep coming up as one of the least visited countries in Europe, and I, at the end of my research, couldn't really understand why, because it sounded like a great place to go and check it out. I mean, not overabundance of heritagey sites to look at necessarily, but it sounded like a place where you'd get a warm welcome, and there's monasteries and wineries, obviously. It just seemed like a great place to go. I'm going to put it on my to-do list.
I'm still very keen to go to the Extra Strong Booze Museum or whatever that was called. That sounds great. Not that I'll remember much of it by the end.
The Museum of Strong Drink. I just love the sort of the upfrontness of the top. What are you with? A Museum of Strong Drink. Wine? Nope, doesn't qualify. We're here for the hard stuff and the hard stuff only.
It's opposite the main hospital, no doubt.
Yes, exactly.
The car park is all these banged up cars. So yeah, we did talk about strong drink, and we talked about the history and legacy of wine in the area, did we not?
We did.
But one of the things we didn't have time to talk about was the record-breaking location, tourist site, if you will. It's a Guinness record holder location. It's called Milesti Meach, which is the record for the largest wine cellar in the world.
More than yours, Paul.
No.
It was established in 1969, and it holds an estimated, see if you can beat this, Paul, 1.5 to 2 million bottles.
That, to me, doesn't sound like a large number.
It doesn't sound like a large number, does it?
It is a wine cellar. It's not a wine producer. It is just stored bottles from around Europe. It's stored in tunnels, which obviously people keep their wine underground for constant temperature and humidity. The tunnels are about 200 kilometres long.
Wow. And they're filled with bottles of wine.
They're apparently, some of it's used for slightly different things. There's underground tasting rooms. You kind of drive around it. It's not.
I think there are a lot of crashes.
Yeah, I would
exactly.
imagine. Yeah, the laws are different underground, I guess. But
those mole men laws.
So yeah, not all of it is turned over to wine at the moment. But I think it's like 150 kilometres of it is wine, and it includes in 2005 the Golden Collection, which was when it was registered in the Guinness Book of World Records as the biggest collection. You can go there. You can book out a tasting room. It looks awesome, to be honest with you.
Have you tried any Moldovan wine, Paul?
No, I haven't. I have tried Georgian wine. Okay, not close, but probably closer.
Closer than Spain, which is what we had.
Yes, that was rather pathetic, I'm afraid.
I had a Crimean sparkling red once.
Well, yes, Crimea always used to be the source of Soviet, quote, champagne, unquote.
I quite liked it, but I am no judge of wine, so you definitely should not be looking to me.
Fizzy red wine does sound like something of a aberration.
I liked it, that's all I'm saying.
I feel like we could make you some sparkling red wine with a soda stream and a cheap bottle of plonk.
And I'd like it.
Yes, you would, yeah.
Christmas is coming, that's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Make your own champagne with soda stream and a cheap wine box.
Chateau Croydon.
That actually would be a perfect label for it, wouldn't it?
Chateau Croydon sparkling red.
All right. So, look, we talked obviously about law enforcement in Moldova during the mid-15th century, and that got me looking at things that we didn't mention, and I thought I'd bring them here instead. For example, I found that whistling indoors was against the law, as it was said to conjure spirits. No whistling indoors, which is really tough if you're doing DIY or something.
Yeah, the indoor football was a terrible tournament to watch.
Also, spitting sunflower seeds. That was considered a public nuisance with a fine that could be applied for sunflower seed shell-related littering. And that ranked within the nation's top 100 offences just as much as last year, 2023.
Could you get off on a technicality if you spat something that was not actually a sunflower seed? So like, that was a peanut shell.
Yeah.
Got clean away.
Well, you know, the Burlington Arcade is still against their house rules to whistle, and the Beatles can come and eject you.
Where is this?
The Burlington Arcade.
And what's that?
Oh, it's an upmarket shopping street in London.
I'm assuming it's not an arcade in the sense of Galaxia and Space Invaders and Pac-Man.
No, it's like a Georgian shopping arcade in Piccadilly.
Oh, so I was going to say my reference dates me, but a Georgian shopping arcade dates Paul even worse.
Okay, that's fine, but I know where I'd rather go.
Well, you're going to miss out on a good night of Frogger. That's all I'm saying.
Now, Pete, you said that Moldova obviously has a rich tradition of winemaking, but not so much at home. Apparently, there are laws that regulate the amount of alcohol that you can produce at home. Apparently, individuals are only allowed to produce a certain amount for personal consumption, and if you exceed this limit without proper licensing, you can be arrested.
And so what is this limit?
1.2 million bottles.
How
can you give a fact and then not support it with a number?
Oh, I've got more of those coming up. You just hang in there, Judge.
So when I was in the area, I was in Romania a long, long time ago, and they were distilling in their cellar in this house I was staying in, a local plum brandy called Palinka.
So you just snuck down there at night, did you, and just helped yourself to some Palinka?
No, they gave us a bottle and they insisted we drink it regularly. I think it was one of those put hairs on your chest kind of drinks. And it did indeed, it set my chest on fire is what it actually did. It was remarkably strong. And it's only later that I thought perhaps I shouldn't be drinking cellar distilled alcohols given to me by strange Romanians. But there you go, live and learn.
Now, up until recently, couples who were applying for a marriage license had to undergo a medical exam by law. Apparently this is a holdover from, earlier times when there was concerns around health, like tuberculosis and stuff. So if you were going to get married, you had to go and get yourself checked out.
So does that mean their vows are in health and in health?
Yes. Now, foreign individuals and companies are prohibited from owning agricultural land, and that's to protect national interests. Similarly, radio stations are required to dedicate a portion of their airtime to traditional Moldovan music.
I'm not against that. I think preserving one's culture is not a terrible idea, although I'm disappointed that we cannot buy HHE Farm Moldova.
Yeah, although the idea of all these Moldovan radio stations playing Mai-ia-ha, Mai-ia-hii every hour sounds draining.
I don't think they mean that sort of music.
Oh, all right, fair enough. But most importantly, the law that stood out to me is that in Moldova, it is illegal to import used underwear.
The fact that that law exists implies that that was something that was going on in some enough scale to warrant a law against it, which is horrifying.
I challenge the word used. What does that mean?
Previously worn underwear. It was brought in around regulations on second-hand clothing. So this is all meant to protect public health.
You can only wear them once then, because the second time after you've worn them once, you can't wear them again.
No, you can only import them once. So does that mean when you're coming home from a holiday, you can't bring any of your clothes back? So talking of laws, Ryan, I was trying to find the earliest crime in Moldova, and what I found was an international crime, no less.
Was this a chunk of beef that was found at cross-border?
Unusually not beef-related. This is a murder, in fact.
Oh.
I thought it wasn't someone importing underpants.
An illegal panty importer. No, it was, it says there is a stone, or a set of stones, I guess, in Gotland in Sweden, believe it or not, called the Sjönehem stone, which is a memorial stone dated about 1000 to 1100 CE. Mm-hmm. And it says it was erected to remember the deceased members of a family. And on this one of them, there's the text that translates as, Rodvisi and Rodalv had these stones erected after their 3 sons. Mm-hmm. This one, after Rodfost. He was betrayed by Vlachs on his voyage.
Wow.
May God help Rodfost's soul. God deceive them who betray him.
My
and
God.
It is interpreted that the Vlachs being in our area, this was an early Moldovan crime.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Dang those Vlachs.
Damn those Vlachs, and presumably Vlach law applied. I don't.
So I guess that's probably to do with the sort of the Viking exploration of sort of Russia and Eastern Europe from the rivers, wasn't it?
They did run up the rivers there, didn't they? So it's kind of one of those things that that's all you've got. I'd like to know more. Who brought him back? How did this stone come to be in Sweden and not in
Yes,
Moldova,
Ryan, come on. You can't
in...
just give us this piece of information and then leave us dangling.
Wait, what? That's not my fact.
Yeah, Ryan.
Wait, what?
Never apologise, never explain.
But then this led me to further law investigation, Ryan, and that was, I was looking for the oldest set of laws in the world, right? So generally considered the Code of Namu is the oldest known code of law that survives today. We know there were some older than this, but this goes back to Mesopotamia, which we know today as Iraq. It's written in Sumerian on tablets, Sumerian being ancient language, which we associate with things like Ghostbusters. And it dates back to around 2100 to 2050 BCE. And it includes laws you would expect. If you commit murder, that man must be killed. If a man commits robbery, he will be killed. Pretty brutal system. But if a slave manages a native, i.e. a free person, he is to hand the firstborn son over to his owner. If a slave escapes from the city limits and someone returns him, the owner shall pay 2 shekels to the one who returns him.
I thought you were going to say 2 sons.
Yeah.
It's just a son-based system of repayment.
Very complicated exchange system where you have to keep giving birth to children. But then it gets really weirdly specific. So one of them is, if a man knocks out the eye of another man, he shall weigh out half a mina of silver. A mina being, I think, 60 shekels.
Well done. You are prompted by next question.
But there's more though. So if a man cuts off another man's foot, he is to pay 10 shekels. If a man in the course of a scuffle smashed the limb of another man with a club, he shall pay 1 mina of silver. It's also weirdly specific. But then it goes, if someone severed the nose of another man with a copper knife, he must pay 2/3 of a mina of silver. Like, these are very specific rules.
Very specific. These were rules written down by someone who had suffered at the hands of someone with a copper knife.
And if John were to attack anyone with a copper knife...
We did copper dice. Dude, he's got to pay him lots of shekels.
What about the ladies?
There were rules for ladies. They mostly involved the price men had to pay for having properly laid with them properly, or not really laid with them properly, or had any saucy fun is going to end up costing you money as a chap.
So it's basically all fines.
Fines or death are your options, largely.
Or sons.
Or sons.
Now, Peter, during the episode, you mentioned Moldova's most popular pop group, Ozone.
Ozone, I did.
Oh dear.
Mai-ia-hii, Mai-ia-ha.
And we wondered what that line meant, didn't we?
We did.
We were like, I wonder what that means. Mai-ia-hii, Mai-ia-huu, Mai-ia-ha, Mai-ia-ha-ha. Yeah, well, it means absolutely nothing. It's just a nonsensical, catchy chant that was made up by the writer. The song's title, though, Dragastia Dintai, translates as Love from the Linden Tree. The linden tree in their culture is associated with love. Apparently there are myths and poems that go back centuries writing about the linden tree as a place for lovers to meet.
Ooh.
Which, of
I'll
course,
meet you under the linden tree.
Which, of course, in English is lime tree.
Ah, is that what it is? Very well, there you go. Now, the song was released in 2003. It became popular in Eastern Europe pretty much straight away, especially in Romania and Moldova. Then it spread across Europe. It became a massive hit in Italy and Germany and France and Spain. Hit the top of the charts in each of those countries. It went on to sell over 12 million copies worldwide. It became one of the best-selling singles of all time. In fact, in France, in particular, the song became the fourth best-selling single of the 21st century. 1.17 million units were sold, generating just from France around $20 million.
They must have thought this is the beginning of a long and enduring career for Ozone.
Yes, but they disbanded 2 years later in 2005. However, their legend does continue, not just through the song, which pops up every now and then.
Legend is somewhat of a aggrandizement.
Well, yes, but it does continue, and that is thanks to one man, a schlubby American guy from New Jersey called Gary Brolsma. Now, who is Gary Brolsma, you might ask? Well, he was in late 2004 sitting at home when he decided he was going to upload a video of himself lip-syncing and dancing to the song. The video was watched 200 million times in 1 year, and it skyrocketed Gary to basically internet legendary status. It became one of the first instances of what we now call a viral meme.
Why don't I just kill myself now?
Well, if you could upload footage to the internet, then we might have a hit on our hands. That could help the podcast enormously.
Now, Gary at the time said that he decided out of nowhere to turn on the webcam and make a silly lip sync video to send to some of his friends. They all got a good laugh out of it, so I decided to submit it online for fun, thinking no one would see it. But they did see it, and Gary wasn't prepared for the level of fame that then followed. And so, overwhelmed by the attention that he was getting, he stepped out of the spotlight until he realised that money could be made from his internet fame. So he agreed to start appearing on TV shows like Good Morning America and The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, basically where he was asked to just recreate the video again and again, which he did. In 2006, he released a second video known as Numa Numa 2, and that video was essentially the same thing, him lip-syncing and dancing, but with better production values and effects, and that just killed the entire thing. The whole world turned their back on Gary Brolsma and indeed the dance.
Well, the whole thing about it was the amateur joy of the moment, right? That's what everyone
Exactly.
Related to. So suddenly a high production value version of the same thing is the opposite of what made it popular in the first place.
Exactly, yeah. It's just, well, it happens all the time, doesn't it? I was looking at something today about a wonky Christmas tree, and you sort of think, what?
Lovely little insight into your social media history. Wonky Christmas trees.
You're absolutely right. It's not the sort of thing that I click, but is that what's called clickbait?
You won't believe what this wonky Christmas tree did.
Now, anyway, all of this being said, as of 2024, the video has helped Brolsma generate a net worth of somewhere between 5 and 10 million US dollars. Interviewed in 2019, he said, "I've gotten a lot of nice emails over the years from many people that the video cheered up. Looking back, I'm glad I was able to help some people and generally just make some people laugh."
And also a lot of money.
Because creators should make money.
hhepodcast.com/merch.
Christmas is coming.
All right, well, look, there you go, Peter. we have come to the end of the line. It's time for us to step into the Moldovan dock and prepare to face the people's judge. Judge Dursley, are you ready to give your verdict?
Yes, but where's the money from you?
Okay, well, in that case, will the defendants please rise?
I mean, this is very appropriate for a law enforcement episode, isn't it?
Now, Your Honour, as usual, may we start proceedings by first asking for your verdict on factual content.
Okay, I will give you the benefit of the doubt on the population versus capital versus country, and all of the other facts in the episode I will have to assume are correct.
Good man. Well, in that case, may we have your verdict for factual content?
I'm going to give you C-.
We should be getting years rather than grades for this.
Yes.
5 years for factual content.
Life.
Without parole.
Well, in that case, Your Honour, we move on to our next one, which is entertainment value. Were you entertained by the episode?
I had a titter.
Ooh.
Oh!
At one of your skits, but I can't remember which one.
Probably all of them, it's my guess.
No, it certainly wasn't all of them. So, I think, gentlemen, for your raising a titter, I shall give you C+.
Yay!
That's what you get for a titter.
Okay, in which case, let's move on to the next one, which is Dursley Factor.
I think, on reflection,
Oh no.
I think the Moldova helped you a lot. So, for this, I shall give you B-.
Oh, that's
Ooh,
good.
That is good.
That is good.
It's very unknowable Dursley factor, isn't it?
Weren't you expecting that?
No, we're just getting better and better. The grades are going up. But either way, we have now reached the final verdict. Peter, before the judge passes his final ruling, we now have an opportunity to enter a plea. If we choose to do so, we should make that plea now.
I feel like it's appropriate to make a plea given the circumstances of the topic, so I would like to say that the time period was very narrow, the country was not very well known. We pulled out some fascinating facts, we spanned the law in many dimensions, and we had Stephen the Great enforcing the law for the good of everybody, and I think that deserves reward.
Well, in that case, Your Honour, the defendants now stand before you. Have you reached a verdict?
I am wavering.
If you could waver in the direction of an A, that'd be excellent.
Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, I have.
In which case, I would ask most respectfully for your ruling.
For a sterling effort, I shall give you B-.
Hurrah!
Ah, that's good. I feel like we've gotten off with our offence. Suspended grade.
Yes, pending good behaviour.
All right, well, look, there you go. That is the show for this week. If you'd like to get in touch about any of the things that we've talked about on the show, or just to say hello, you can reach out to us on social media through our website at hhepodcast.com or by email at peteandryan@hhepodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you, and you never know, you might end up featured on a future show.
Yep, and one way to definitely feature on a future episode is to rate and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Good Pods. Your recommendation there goes a long way to bringing the show to new listeners.
And of course, if you're on Mastodon, Facebook, Instagram, X, or now Blue Sky,
Have we signed up to that?
we have.
Oh, nice.
You can find us at HHE Podcast, and if you subscribe to those, you'll get an alert every time we post extra little bits and pieces, tidbits, news, photos, pictures, all the things we can think of.
Now, we are going to be back again soon, and this next episode is going to be a special one. It is our 100th episode, and that episode is going to be Something, Somewhere, Sometime. In the meantime, a huge thank you to the judge himself. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure, as always.
And that is it. I guess all that's left to say is...
Stop! In the name of the law!
Now, in one of the sketches, I mentioned the idea of having a houseplant scavenger hunt.
You did.
Now, that was inspired by the Moldovan tradition of competitive sheep counting.
Which I did not believe was real when you pitched that sketch to me.
Yeah, no, it is real. It's more common today in Australia and New Zealand, apparently. But yeah, it is an actual sport, and it's where competitors try to accurately count sheep as quickly as possible. But yeah, sheep farming's a vital part of the rural life in Moldova for centuries. An estimate of 3 sheep per person in the mid-15th century. It's roughly 2 million sheep.
So you could cheat by counting the people and multiplying by 3.
Exactly. Easy.
Sorry, you're sending me to sleep with all this sheep counting.
Ah.
Sorry, was I supposed to say that?
No. It's interesting because I looked that up as well. Because of course, yeah, anecdotally, counting sheep is used as a method for helping you fall asleep. But in 2002, Oxford University students got together and they did a study and found that people who were told to imagine a calming scene like a beach or a waterfall, they fell asleep much faster than those who were counting sheep, because not everybody has the same capacity to picture sheep in their mind. There are neurological studies that have proven that some people struggle to visualize objects in their mind. So not everybody is able to actually picture a sheep and therefore count it.
Have I counted that one before? Shit, I'm going to have to start again.
Yeah. No, apparently the best advice for falling asleep is just to focus on muscle relaxation and your breath. Going in and out, and in and out.
And shake it all about. I'm still wavering. Ask me in 2 seconds.
Hello, lovely YouTube folks. This is a special message just for you.
Yeah, thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Now, if you enjoyed the show, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And don't forget to take a moment to hit that like and smash subscribe.
Hit that like.
Yeah.
Smash subscribe.
Yeah, that's what people say.
Do they though?
Yeah, only the cool kids.
And you think you're the cool kids, do you?
No, we're the cool kids.
Oh yeah, I suppose we are. All right, smash that like button, people. Smash it real good.
Oh yeah, nice.